Good morning, good afternoon, and then good evening from anywhere you're connecting to us from. Um, it's a lovely day once again, a lovely section. Please, if you can hear me, just confirm by telling me where you're connecting from so that I'm sure that we are set for today's section. Um, there are a couple of things I'm going to want to mention into this section, and it's going to be quite heavy, right? It's going to be quite heavy. So just let us know where you're connecting from. Okay, I see Florida, I see Morocco, I see Lagos, I see South Africa. Perfect, awesome. So we have a 2 week communication here. That's good. That's good. Let's get the ball rolling. Welcome to the Modern Cybersecurity with AI Bootcamp. This is the week 2 section. And in week 2, we are going to be going through um, how to. We did set up n8n in the previous section. This section, we are going to be going through how to create a workflow with n8n, and it's going to be an interesting one. Yes, I do see all of you in the chat. I see Ghana, I see Arizona. Welcome, every single body. Welcome to the call. Now, this is a preamble I need to set. This bootcamp is not an introduction to cybersecurity bootcamp. We probably may not have made that clear enough. I know we had people from different angles joining us. If you are a beginner, it's still fine to be part of the bootcamp because you can learn cybersecurity in a unique way. But it's important. It's important to be able to say that this bootcamp is not an introduction to cybersecurity. And why mentioning that is important is because there are several resources out there where you can learn how to do cybersecurity, right? Where you can learn confidentiality, integrity, and availability, and all those fundamentals. It's very important. However, with this bootcamp, we're trying to make sure that people that have that knowledge are able to apply AI to their day-to-day operations, to what they do on a daily basis, and it's very important. Just last week, I was on I would say, difficult call where we were having to deploy a couple of AI agents. And what these AI agents and tools are doing, it's very, very interesting. So one thing is certain: the people that are going to win in tomorrow's workforce are people that definitely know how to leverage AI, right, to be able to increase and optimize their performance. Very important. In our last week, we also did have what did we call it? We had weekly tasks. So we have 6 sections, 6 weeks. Towards the end of this bootcamp, we'll start talking to you about the extended learning experience I talked about. That means that's for people that want to go in depth outside of just what has been covered for these 6 weeks. We have an extended program as well for that. But primarily, people have been asking about how do I submit my weekly tasks? What do I do about the weekly tasks? The answer is simple. We don't want you to come every week and have to submit your tasks. Some persons might end up wanting to do week 1 to week 4 tasks all in a single day. It's very possible. Some might end up wanting to do it at the end of the bootcamp. Some might want to do it at the end of every week, which is most advised, right? So what would want to recommend is, once you finish your tasks, it's expected that you finish your tasks on time. Keep your deliverable. It can be a screenshot. Just keep all of that in a folder on your system. Keep all of that in a folder on your system. When at the end of the bootcamp, all you'll be required to do is just to um, zip it up, put it together. You would have an upload platform. That platform is going to identify only people that have registered for the bootcamp or that are part of this bootcamp. You would simply just upload your artifacts, upload your deliverables. You'd upload everything there. And then there'll be a review process where every single task, every single submission will be manually reviewed by our experts behind the scenes. They will be manually reviewed. When you submit your weekly tasks, you complete your capstone project, yes, you are going to get a certificate of achievement. Someone is asking already, will certificates be issued? Yes, we are going to give you a certificate of achievement, but this is not for people that registered for the bootcamp. No, this is for people that are able to submit their weekly tasks, right? And are also able to complete their capstone project. This is important. We are pushing you to be different. We are pushing you to be outstanding. We are pushing you to be better. So it's just good to just put that out there. So very soon we're going to have our instructor on call, and we're going to be introducing him very soon. So it was not easy to have such a veteran in our midst. This is someone that I can tell you for the stats that he has covered the whole breadth of security operations. He's a full end-to-end SOC, should I say SOC engineer. So I'm happy to have Emmanuel in the midst. I will just introduce him shortly so that we can get the section started. So he's actually a security operations lead at one of the big four consulting firms, and also a certified information security manager. This is someone that I can very much say is at the forefront of AI-driven security operations, leveraging automation, machine learning, and intelligent workflows to accelerate threat detection, streamline incident triage, and enhance incident response. He's also specializing in digital forensics and threat hunting, with a deep expertise in engineering security solutions, threat detection, enterprise security architecture. Thank you so much, Emmanuel Uche. It's good to have you in our midst. I see someone say he's an excellent person. Of course he is. Definitely he is. So for people talking about the weekly tasks, all I'm saying is simple, and I'll repeat. Just keep all your deliverables. You'll be given enough time to submit. You'll be given enough time to submit. But it's important that you are able to keep all your deliverables so you are not under pressure to start to complete 6 weeks of tasks, right, in a single day or in the short amount of time that might be made available, depending on that for you. People are also asking about the extended program. As I said, towards the end of this bootcamp, we're going to talk about the extended program. But one thing I can say is that extended bootcamp is for a select few, right? In fact, if you are not able to graduate from this 6 weeks program, you're not able to sufficiently even complete the capstone project, you wouldn't even be eligible. So completing this bootcamp is a way we're able to streamline people that are dedicated, right? And then we're going to work further with those people, and then we'll go a bit more intense, right? 6 weeks, as we mentioned, is definitely not going to be enough to cover what is possible with AI in cybersecurity. And we have a lot of things in the back end that's cooking. So would want to take on a couple of people on board to be part of us, and it's going to be an exciting section. You would have one-on-one direct calls with some of the amazing people you would see, some of the amazing instructors that we do have here. Very important. Okay, so I wouldn't want to take too much of our instructor's time so that we can get on right to it. So I'm going to hand over the floor to Emmanuel. If you do have questions, please shoot us an email. You should have an email. That's how we send you notifications. Or you can just drop a message on Discord and someone should be able to respond to you. Thank you, everyone. If you have questions, keep on dropping them. They can also be addressed, depending on the questions, they can also be addressed towards the end of the section. That's if it's program related. But Mr. Emmanuel is going to take us through this beautiful section. Thank you so much, Emmanuel.
Thank you, Okon, and good day, everyone. I want to assume that everyone can hear me. Just with a show of hands in the comment section, just let me know if the audio is good enough. Um, Okon has started this session by putting a lot of pressure with all these accolades, I might say, but uh, this is going to be a very straight and simple session. Thanks for the confirmation. Thank you. Thank you. Um, CSN has asked me to teach on the topic building an incident triage workflow with n8n. I understand over the last week, we, because I'm also learning too, so we learned how to leverage n8n and how to basically start up and set up our n8n instances. So I want to assume that before anyone here is going to be able to follow along, you all have your n8n running, right? Okay, let's also take a step back and review what n8n is in this context. We understand that n8n is more or less a platform that's allowing us to automate certain workflows. Now, just as Okon said, and our previous instructor mentioned, in security operations, there are multiple workflows that come into play depending on the action you're trying to perform, depending on the use cases as well. If I was to mention a few, in the GRC, governance, risks, and compliance, we have lots of activities when it comes to automated checks with compliance, automated collection of evidence, documentation, and all this. And another part that comes to play is now reviewing this and having to time it, putting it in the right timeline, right? When it comes to VAPT, you have lots of workflows in that area, vulnerability assessment and penetration testing. You try to automate some scans, you try to go through your kill chain, and sometimes you can automate these flows to make it much more simpler. You can automate your reconnaissance and things like that. And thank you again. In security operations, you now have where this is seen in most cases. If most of you have experience in the SOC, you've come across terms like playbooks or run books, which are like a step-by-step guide on how you attend to certain types of incidents. So in some cases, and even in modern SOCs, these have been automated using several sort of tools. You have your SIEM, you have your SOAR, and just to mention a few. So without going into depth, we're going to use n8n to just show us what this kind of automation can look like. So n8n is basically a solution that allows us to automate workflows, and it also allows us to incorporate tools into these workflows. So it understands that while you're performing your activities, your incident response, your detection, you might leverage on different tools at some point in time. So having to go through all these steps, having to go through all these tools is going to be streamlined and it can be performed with anything. And there's so much we can do on anything that I can't even begin to scratch the surface. I'm not within this short time we have. So I'm just going to go straight into it with a simple workflow. Okay. We're going to use a use case that was introduced last week, which is a phishing email detection. So before I start, I want to ask a few questions. Who here has experienced a phishing attack before or has seen a phishing email? Just drop your experience or what you know about it on your chat box. I know in some organizations you've had some phishing awareness trainings, or if you're customers of certain financial institutions, they will push out some awareness on phishing and things like that. So let me just see, based on your experiences, have you gone through something like that? Have you seen a phishing email? Oh, lovely, lovely. Always in your spam, lovely. I'm going to get into that. Okay. Oh, wow. I'm seeing lots of experiences here, so I'm sure you will love and this training. So we're going to use this particular use case of phishing to perform a little triage. So in hindsight, phishing is basically a social engineering tactic where An attacker attempts to collect some information from you by masking a legitimate image with malicious image with a legitimate image. So they always have some sort of patterns that allow you to pick it up sometimes, and in some cases they're more sophisticated. So, okay, I'm still seeing a lot of responses. That's good. So, for those of you that have experienced phishing emails, what's the first thing you look out for that makes you know this is a phishing attempt? What are the attributes that make you believe an email is a phishing email? It's extortion, right? That's even the bigger one, but nice. Not the experience, of course. The urgency, thank you. Fake URLs, thank you. How can you tell it's a fake URL? Sparing errors, domain, lovely, lovely, lovely. I love all these responses and I love how interactive you guys are. So just as we are saying here, some of the context in these emails would have something suspicious to them. For example, the urgency. Phishing tries to create urgency and it allows you or doesn't allow you to think straight before responding. For example, you could see a mail that says, "Hello, your email has been hacked or your account has been hacked. Click this link quickly to remediate." Or you can see a mail that seems to be from someone you're familiar with attempting to help out, and they'll ask you to click something. And to be honest, it doesn't always come via mail. Sometimes you can get it via text messages and from your social media accounts and so many things. So we all have that idea of phishing emails. Okay, that's good. Um, my other question will be for those that are more security operations affiliated. So those that work in SOC, you're an analyst, or if you have the answers, please do try and comment. Given your scenario as someone who works in the SOC, based on experience, you'll get to see lots of this sort of activities coming in. So users might repeatedly send or receive phishing emails. And as a security personnel, you get to see this sometimes before it goes to the user's end. So how do you deal with a lot of these emails coming in at the time? Let's say 1,000 emails coming at a time. How do you deal with them? How do you know which one is phishing? How do you review them? How do you know which one is not phishing? How do you handle such high volume of alerts coming at the time? Okay, see some comments. How do you try to attend to? How do you review all this huge volume of alerts or huge volume of emails that come into your account while trying to ensure that you don't respond to phishing emails? I'm still seeing lots of experiences. It seems you guys have really dealt with phishing. Thank you for that. Prioritization according to the level of impact. So I'm going to use that AI tools. Example, Splunk, that's good. Using the same email filtering service. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. These are all good responses. So I'm going to sidetrack away from phishing bits and now focus on security incidents. We have scenarios where lots of phishing attacks happen or lots of incidents happen. And the role of a security operations personnel is to triage through these incidents. That means how do you prioritize all of them coming in? How do you review all of them? How do you prioritize them? How do you attend to them? And how do you respond to them? That's one of the reasons why we do incident triaging. So this is a very critical step and it's incorporated into whatever playbook you have in the security operations center, that's the SOC. So as a security personnel, triaging is a very important skill. Now, as someone earlier wrote, some tools help us to do this triage, which is good. But in most cases, these tools are quite expensive. Yeah, and some automating tools also have their features that you can leverage to do this triaging, which could also be tedious at sometimes. And we also have situations where, as a SOC operations personnel, you're monitoring multiple tools. You have a tool that checks those, you have a tool that checks your web applications, you have a tool that tests the endpoint itself, you have tools that check for viruses, you have tools that check VPN. So multiple tools all picking out incidents and all sending them to you and having to review all this at the same time could be tedious. It could slow the instance response. One thing about instance response is that you have to prioritize real-time response. So I think we've spoken quite a bit. Thank you. In some cases, your email providers try to help with filtering this huge influx of malicious mails. That's why sometimes you can see they have been let to your spam automatically. But in some cases, attackers still find ways to circumvent this. Yeah, on your back end as well, you can make some configurations that enable you to block certain malicious domains from sending you emails. But you can't possibly know all the malicious emails. New ones are generated every day. So there are some that could be skipped and that could still come into your inbox. So as a security operations personnel, it's now your duty to be able to filter through this, triage them, and be able to respond to them depending on the criticality. And when it comes to criticality, you assign the severity or how you prioritize this incident depending on the impact. But that's a different whole topic on its own. Uh, as Okon said, you need to go into cybersecurity details to understand partiality, integrity, and availability, and how it affects all these criteria is how you now measure your severity. Okay, can we configure our emails like Yahoo and Gmails to use anything and the likes? Yes, we can. And for this particular um, training class, I think we'll do just that. We can actually use different tools. Anything allows you to import APIs and you can call different solutions into your n8n workflows, and that helps you to respond. Okay, so without speaking too much, let's go into um, alert triage today. As I explained, in the SOC or security operations today, you have alerts from several tools, and very big organizations get a huge influx of alerts from all these tools. Oh, sorry, is my audio still good? I just had that someone can hear me clearly. Please confirm if the audio is still okay. All right, I can hear that now. Good. Okay. Next, you also understand that alerts needs to be reviewed. While your security tools push out different incidents from different solutions, they all need to be reviewed, and you can't possibly go through all of them. One of the options that the management might have might be to employ more security operations engineers and things like that, and analysts, but that also doesn't really help in some cases. So you need to incorporate workflows to triage these incidents. Because even if you have the best tools, you have a huge number of teams, most of these alerts still need additional layers of review. So one person reviews, another second level reviewer comes in before you can even attend to those incidents. And while these alerts are being generated from multiple tools, you also get cases of false positives. Okay, I have an experience with a security solution called the DAM. That's the database activity monitoring solution. So in this particular incident, we had an attack on one of our databases pointing to an application, and we were all flustered within the team. Like, how did we miss this? Or how did we miss this particular incident? It was directly to one of the database tables in the environment. So what happened was when we went back to the dam to review the alerts, it turns out that that solution actually picked up that incident, but it was missed because there was a huge influx of alerts on that dam. So the issue was it wasn't configured to streamline particular incidents. So multiple incidents were coming in as any user is sending inputs or updates to their databases. It's being logged as an alert. So the huge influx of a huge volume of these incidents could not be attended to, and that's how that incident was missed. So in different scenarios, you can have areas where you can't really attend to every single alert that comes in. Okay. Next is the severity. You need to be able to attest to the impact of an incident if it were to happen. So the impact and the likelihood. So um, in security assessment, you have what they call vulnerabilities that could occur to certain assets, and these vulnerabilities are measured by their risk. So what happens if that vulnerability is exploited, and then the likelihood, how likely is that vulnerability to be exploited? So all these things need to be assessed when these alerts come in. Next is the context. So, using the example that someone gave, you receive a phishing email and you try to investigate it by putting it into Virus Total. Okay, Virus Total helps you to get more context to that incident. It will help you to scan the URL that's or the link that's in the email. It can help you to check the domain, that's the sender. And in some cases, if you have an attachment, you can also upload the attachment and get more context. So all these things are also part of what a security analyst is meant to do to triage an incident. And again, taking back to the first question, imagine having a thousand emails having to be reviewed the same way. Lots of this, lots of actions are required to perform this. And finally, the decision that has to be made. So after reviewing all these, you need to make your decisions on whether you want to block, whether you want to allow it to flow, if it's a false positive, if it's a true positive, and whatever the scenario is, this all has to be taken note of. And then finally, the investigation notes. So while you're doing all this, it's always prioritize that you take notes. You have a record of every single action that was taken. So you can see from all I'm saying, there are lots of activities that are involved when it comes to triaging alerts from the security operations perspective. So how can we um, make this process better optimized? We automate it. That's why automating a triage is being talked about today. As I said, there are lots of tools out there that organizations use to do this. But for the context of this training, I'm just going to show you a simple workflow that we can build on our own using n8n. And we can also try to incorporate other workflows that have been built by other engineers and creatives out there. So, as I said, I want to believe that everyone has set up their n8n already, but this is the command we used last week. So, pull up your Docker container or run your Docker desktop, start your n8n instances, and let us start with the session for today. Um, so, during the last session, um, we actually went through building up an n8n on a local host that's using your system as a local host for n8n. And that's all nice for this training, for training purposes. But in the cases where you want to speak to tools that are on the web, it might be a little bit difficult. For that reason, you would have to set up a web tunnel. So you can do this using tools like Cloudflare or ngrok, ngrok, pardon me, and we could also use the anything cloud if that's not preferred. But for the purpose of this particular training, and given how everything is going to be quite technical, I want you all to follow me along with this training. Ask the questions as I show them, as I display my screen. Then, since this session is being recorded, you can always go back and practice on your own. So please do follow through the class for now. Then you can always go back and ask questions while on this class. You can always go back and try it out on your end. And if you have more questions, you can also reach out to me or anyone in the team using the Discord channel. So that's made available. So to start, please, can you guys just go into this link? So we're going to get the admin to post it on the chat. We're going to go to ngrok and try to download the application. So let's get this here. All right, so I should be displaying my screen now. I hope people can see that. All right, lovely. So let's go to Edlock. I've had to set up a new Gmail just for this class, so let's pardon delays and all this. Skip all this, skip all this, skip all this. Okay, great. All right, so ngrok is an application that allows you to set up a um, a web tunnel. So it will link your local host and give you an internet URL that you can use on your n8n instance that will allow your local n8n to speak to tools on the internet. Okay, so please go ahead and sign up if you don't have an account, or log in if you have an account. So in my case, I'm just going to use a Google. Let me Google. Yes, create an account. So we're going to skip this for now. All right, so if you can see where I currently am, and if you are here as well, um, ngrok actually has downloadable and executable for Windows OS as well as for Mac and Linux. So on this particular host machine, I'm using Windows, so I can just go ahead to the download link and download the 64 bits option. Or you can use the Microsoft Store. So just go into Microsoft Store and it will be directly from the store. So I'm going to go ahead to download. Okay, it's done. So I'm going to unzip and install. I think that should be pretty straightforward. But if you have any questions, please go ahead to ask and we would respond while we continue. So my ngrok has been installed, and to confirm, I'm going to open up a terminal here. Okay, so let's see. I'm going to type ngrok. I'm good. It's been installed. All right. So with that confirmation, I'm going to head back to our our browser. So for ngrok to work, you have to get the authentication token. So let's try and do that now. The steps have also been highlighted on the page, so it's pretty straightforward. Download, get the authentication token. So that will be displayed at the top of your screen there. So I'm just going to proceed to copy this file out and then return to my terminal. Okay, it's taking a while to come up. Apologies. All right, so we have our terminal here. So if you all saw how I copied out the authentication code, I'm just going to type it here and paste. Okay, so don't worry about seeing my authentication token this time. I'm deleting it afterwards, so no one goes to use it. All right, so you should receive a command that states your configuration file has been saved. That's just to confirm that you're good to go. So I'm just going to clear this up first, and then going to type in ngrok http. So if you remember, our n8n is running on localhost port 5678. So I'll just type in the port number 5678 and enter. So after a minute, it would forward our local host IP, our local host URL to a new URL. So this URL is now what we can use to access our anything instance from the web browser. So I'm just going to copy this out, or you can just click on it, and it should open our link. Let's go back to the browser. And here we go. Oh, why me? I'm yet to start my anything instance. So just give it a minute. I should have started up my anything starting up before going to ngrok, but that delay is costing me a bit of time. Still give it a minute. Let me see if it's coming on localhost. Yes, localhost 5678. Right, so manager is now updated. Okay. Uh, this looks like I have to restart my Docker. So sorry about this. Okay, so just so we don't waste too much time, I'm going to get back to this while we're waiting. CSN has also allowed us to leverage on their lab, so we can just go to cloudsetnetwork.com and leverage on this n8n lab there while I'm still waiting for ngrok to come up. All right, so you all should just try to come under CSN lab. So I have my credentials here. So if you're having issues with your n8n instance or you don't have a free web account, you can quickly go on to cloudsetnetwork.com and go into the lab section and getting your labs there. So I'm going to use this credential. Okay. So I'm going to give a few seconds for anyone else who's trying to use CSN Lab. Just try and see if you can create your account and if you can launch a lab. So let's expand this a bit. I just got that some people can see my screen. Oh, I'm so sorry. Speaking too fast. So sorry about that. So I'm going to retrace a step. Go to CSN Lab, CloudSec Network, go on under Labs and create your account if you don't have an account. But since you registered under CSN, you should automatically have an account, sign in, and you should have access to the lab. So for those of us that want to just try it out, please do. But again, as I said at the start of this call, let's try to just follow along, and then afterwards you can try and do this on your end. So this just giving us several options. You can run your n8n on localhost, or you can use n8n cloud, or you can go through CSN Labs. So each of them, whichever works for you, is fine. But for this purpose of this training, I'm going to use the CSN Lab. Okay, I just want to get a a quick confirmation that some people are feeling like, I'm so sorry, I'm fast. I'm so sorry. I'm used to working quite fast. So I'm just going to slow down a bit and just let some people catch up. So just one or two confirmations that you're with me, then I proceed. So for this, I'm going to use 4 hours. Please, if you do have questions, you can put them on the chat. I can respond. Okay, lost after installing Grok. Okay, since I'm still on the page, I'll just use this to show. Once you've installed Grok, let me zoom this a bit. The Microsoft page actually gives you step by step on what to do next. Okay, once you've installed Grok, all you have to do is to um, configure your authentication token to your terminal. So just copy this command here, run or type in ngrok from your terminal. That's from prompt or bash or your Linux terminal. If you're using Linux for Windows, you can just repeat using PowerShell or CMD and then paste this command. That would configure your ngrok with your um, authentication token. Now, this is for those who wish to connect their local n8n instance to the web. If you don't wish to do that, if you have all your workflows running on local instance, then you don't need to do this. You don't need to go through all these steps. And if this is still a bit more too technical, you can easily go just as well go to n8n cloud and use n8n cloud. That's much more straightforward. Okay. The third option I provided was to use CSN Labs. So any of this works. I hope I was able to answer that. Where are you getting the credentials? Once you sign on anything on ngrok, your credentials are automatically created. Just sign up. Once you sign up, it takes you to this page, and if you see this particular line, this is my credential, this is my authentication token. That's already given to you once you sign up. So that's the only thing you are doing. We're not Your Docker desktop should already be installed, should already be running. That was my mistake. I didn't start up my Docker desktop before this session. And that's why we had some errors going back and forth. But once your Docker desktop is installed, is running, and you've installed n8n, continuing from the last week's class, then you are on track. All right, I have a confirmation. All done. That's good. Anyone else? No, no, no. You're not connecting ngrok to Docker desktop. Docker desktop's job is just to host your n8n container, to host your n8n instance, rather. So you're not doing anything with Docker desktop again. Okay, back on track. With start n8n. Good, good. I need a few more go ahead so we can move forward. Just a few more. If you still have any issues, let me know. This is a walkthrough, so I can. Yes, you can download. You have to download it. It's the download option right here. You can download from here. But if you don't want to go to the hassle of downloading and installing, you can just go to Microsoft Store and search for ngrok. It's there. All right, another confirmation. Thank you. Do we have any other question? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and proceed. As I said, it's a recorded session, so you can always come back and slow down my pace to see where we are. So I'm just going to go back to CSN Labs. By now, my lab has been set up, so let's see. Here's all this. All right, great. So um, this is where you should be now, and this is where you stopped during the last session. So I'm just going to go ahead and create an account and use test user. Let's use manual CSN. Let's have a password here. Okay, just a few questions here. You can just fill up any detail you wish to fill up here. Doesn't really matter at this point. Let's just get started. So skip. All right, so at this point in time, we are continuing where we left off last week. This is n8n instance. We've gone through this platform. We've seen different templates. So you can use options to check on more templates. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start from scratch. So I'm selecting this to start from scratch. Okay, like I said, if you're having any issues at this point, just follow on this video. If you're unable to connect to your local host, it means that your n8n instance is not running. So you have to check your Docker desktop and start it up. But for now, just take a pause and follow through with me, then we can tackle the rest of that after the call. Okay? If you still have issues starting your n8n, restart Docker. That would help you fix that issue. Okay, so we are currently on the editor space on n8n, and we can start our workflow. So that's quite a bit of time spent, and let us proceed. So on n8n's interface, as you can see, you can start a new workflow. You can also import a workflow. n8n gives you 3 panes. You have the editor pane where you can build your nodes. So every item you put in here is a node. Okay, so you can start with a trigger. This trigger can be your email, or someone mentioned if you could use a Gmail. So you can use a Gmail trigger, you can use an Outlook trigger, you can even use a chat trigger, depending on what you want to do. Okay. The second pane here is execution. So for every single execution that has taken place on your workflow, it will be shown on this pane. And then finally, you have the evaluations, but that's not our concern for now. So we're just going to work with the editor pane and the execution pane moving forward. Okay. On n8n, to start, the first step is to click here. It will open a sidebar to put in your trigger. So you have different types of triggers. You have a trigger manually, so that means you would have to come manually to click the execute button before your workflow starts. We also have an app event, so you can connect an application. It could be any app, depending on if that app has an interface that anything recognizes. So that app could be your Gmail as well. It could be another solution you have. It could even be Slack, for example. Maybe if a message comes into Slack, you want it to trigger your workflow to different things. It can even be a form, so you can leverage on maybe a Google form, such that if someone types in the data in that form, it could trigger your workflow. So different options and different things we can do here. You can also have a webhook call. So a webhook is something that allows an application to speak to a third-party application, just like an API. So API, I'm sure we are all security experts, so I won't want to go too little. You can say an API is an application programming interface, so it allows two applications to speak. You send a request, you get a response, right? Webhook, on the other hand, is more like a pull. It goes to the server to pull the data you want. So you can always look that up online, get more information on that. Okay. I have a question here. Can you send the email to access the lab? So just go to CloudSet Network website, and there you see the lab. So if you have access, you should be able to access it. That's depending on your if you registered. So for the purpose of trying to ensure that those that registered are there, you should have it. But that can be discussed about the core. We have other areas. Okay. Okay. I think we've also had it there. If you want access to CSN Lab, you would also need to send an email. Okay, for activation. All right. That's the thing. Okay, so aside from the fact that we can build our trigger, because of time, I'm going to import a trigger, import a workflow. So if you remember last week, there were different workflows we could use. You can just go there and search for the particular workflow you want to use. Um, I've already built a very simple workflow which I want to use here, so I think we'll start with that. Then I'll just walk us through each node in the workflow. This workflow was also provided at the end of the class. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to import to file. It will bring up a window, and then I would select my saved workflow and click on open. So just like uploading a file as you would do in your WhatsApp desktop or your email, just click on import via file and you can put in your workflow. So what we have here is a very simple four node workflow. Okay, just so as to reduce the complexities of setting up everything, we just have four nodes. Our task with this is to build a workflow that would go through our emails. So as any email comes into your inbox, it will pick up that email, bring it over to n8n. It will pass through the fields of that email. So it's going to go through the email content itself and for particular fields that you feel are needed. So what do you want to review from that email? Do you want to review the sender? Do you want to pick out URLs? Do you want to pick out attachments? Do you want to pick out the body of the email, the subject, whatever field you want to pick up, that's going to be carried out. And then you're going to push this to your AI model. So on n8n, you have different AI models. All you have to just type in model. This model here. So you have different models available to you. So all these models work the same way. You can go and chat with one of the models. So for example, for ChatGPT, for example, you have um, OpenAI link. You go to ChatGPT and you type a message, right? And on that front, you always have to create an account, and you also have a different pricing model. So the models you have access to depend on um, your pricing or what you've paid for. Okay, so different models are available to you to use depending on what you've paid for. So just as you can pay for professional models or higher price models on Grok, on Anthropic, Claude, you can also do the same and leverage on that access here. So let's say you already have a ChatGPT account. You can use that account and create an API key, and that API key will allow you to speak or use your ChatGPT account on anytime. So you can do this with any other model of your choice. So for the purpose of this session, we just have a new account that was created and we only have access to Gemini. I think Gemini is the one of the chat models that allow you to use a free model, free API keys. There are some that do also do that, but just for the purpose of this session, we can use Gemini. I would want to implore you all to also try out some other models. It's basically the same thing, which we're going to go through. Okay, setting them up is the same thing. So how the AI node works will also be explained, and then finally, um, our AI node here is going to help us to ingest the fields we've passed. It's going to help us gather some context, and then it's going to help us display our results. So as I said, you can use ChatGPT, you can use whatever model if you're choosing, but it also depends on your access. So you can use ChatGPT if you have a paid account. If you have a paid GPT account, you can use ChatGPT. If you don't have any paid account, you can just use Gemini as I would use here on the call. Okay? Okay, so let's go to the last phase. The last phase is now speaking to displaying your results. So what you can do here is that you want the model to display your result in the format that you can easily speak to, you can easily understand, and you can ingest. So the whole point of this is that I'm going to assume that I'm a security analyst and my email is receiving lots of phishing attempts. So a lot of phishing emails come through. And I'm tired of having to go through manually to go through each of these emails, review each of the contents, look at all the links, and review them myself before deciding whether or not to read the email or to even attend to it. So I want a workflow that would automate that entire process for me. And this four-step workflow can do this easily for me. Okay, so for Gemini, Gemini has multiple models, as you know, and the free model there is 2.5, I think, Flash, but we're going to go through it one after the other. So let's start with first the first node. So the first node we're using here is a webhook node. So I said it's easy as just typing, going to this plus sign and typing webhook, and you can start your and to give you this page where you can navigate it. Okay, so don't mind the fact that it's already been there. I'm still going to show you how we input all the data and how we configure everything as we move along. Okay. Um, so lucky for us, you can ingest Gmail directly if you're using Gmail. You can see here it's a Gmail node, and Gmail nodes are very specific. So do you want a node that gets a message or that replies or that triggers when you reply a message or send a message to different things? So if you're using Gmail, for example, you're going to use a node that gets a message. So, but for the purpose of this training again, I'm going to use a different mail platform, which is called Agent Mail. So Agent Mail is specifically designed for AI agents, and it best fits our use case. Okay, so let's go create an Agent Mail account. So your browser, just type in Agent Mail. Okay, I just got to understand we've not shared uh, the workflow, this file. So I'm going to go ahead and share this on Discord channel. So please be patient. Everything you need for this will be shared. Again, as I said, just follow through with this class and you can always go back to it. So I'm going to take a quick second to answer questions. So, admin, would you please share some questions and then after that we can move on and go back to my notes. Okay, can we connect via LinkedIn or other platforms? Yes, yes, we can. We can use other platforms if they have a node available on anytime. And some of these platforms also expose APIs. So you can just go to that platform and find out if it exposes any APIs. If it does, then you can create an API ingest node on anytime. Any other question? Which model do we use? As I said, we have the option of different models depending on your level of access. If you have paid models, you can use those models. But if you don't have any model, you just want to test it out for the purpose of training, we can just leverage on Gemini. Gemini has a free model we can use and has a free API key. That's why I'm going with Gemini for the purpose of this test. Of course, if you need more assistance, all you need to do is raise a question on the Discord channel and we'll be able to assist. I do apologize that the template file has been shared there. It will be shared there. Any other question? Okay, that's good. So let's proceed. So I want you guys to, this is something you can do as we proceed. You just go to agentmail.to and create an account there. So we're going to use agent mail to as our trigger, meaning that agent mail will be the one sending the emails, or where we're going to go to pick up our emails before triggering our workflow. Yes, the free version of n8n is for 14 days. That's when you're using the cloud. Okay, that's why we have other options of running it locally. If you run it locally, it's not going to be limited to just 14 days. You can run it as much as you want. All you have to do is connect it to using ngrok so you can speak to the internet where you need to. Okay. Yes, we are still on the ingest node. We have not passed there, so don't be scared. We're still there. I'm trying to be as slow as possible so everyone follows along. We are still on the ingest node. Okay. So this is where we are. I'm going to zoom in so we can all see this. We're still on the ingest node. All right, so I'm going to proceed to create my account. So creating an account is quite straightforward. Just type in your email, your first name, last name, and your valid email address. So I have my Google account here, so I'm going to use that Google account to sign in. But if you don't have one, you can use your existing Gmail account and do that. If you want a separate Gmail account just for agent mail, you can also do that. So how agent mail works is that even though it's giving you an email account, you still need to be linked to an existing account. So if you have a Gmail account, please use that. Or if you want to create something new, you can do that. Yes, while setting up your agent mail, you can use your personal email account here. That's okay. So please, just to make sure I'm following along, just put in your questions on the chat and I'll respond, okay? All right, so let's proceed to signing in. Okay. For those that don't know how to set up, I'm going to set up a new account just for them. Since we're having a bit of a delay, let me answer some more questions as we wait. If you have a domain and you are using a customized email, yes, that can also work. You can use your customized domain as your web trigger, well, as your trigger, yes. So what happens is the domain you are using would have to be able to expose a webhook service. If it does that, then yes, you can. Okay. This was the question. Have I not answered yet? How will I run the n8n on localhost? Okay, so just go back to the last week's session. That explains how you run n8n on localhost. The entire session was about running n8n on localhost. So if you still have questions there, just follow the last session. Okay? So now, hosting on ngrok is what we took at the start of this class. Just download ngrok. So you can go through Microsoft Store or just go to the website, download it, and type in the only command that's there, and that will set it up for you. So I think we are still up to speed now. All right, so my agent mail account is being created, and you should come up with this screen. I hope this is large enough, everyone. Okay. Let's just go to the onboarding. Okay, so let's go through onboarding. So welcome to agent mail. Let's get you started by creating your first inbox. Yes. So click here, go to setup, and create your inbox. So you have the you're allowed to create as many inbox as you want. For this particular case, I just want a single inbox for my security notifications. So I'll just call it security notifications. The name doesn't matter, it's optional, so you can choose to put in a username or not. So that's fine by you. And display name, you can choose a display name if you want. So I'm just going to click create inbox. Okay, let's rename this. No space allowed. So let's call myself SOC agents. Create an inbox. And then that's done. You should see your inbox ID created right away. And your inbox is ready. So for this particular scenario, I want you guys to follow along. So let's get confirmation that you guys have, some of you have gotten as far back as creating your agent mail and agent mail inboxes. So just a yes or a no, and the chat box will be fine. Since I hope this is clear enough and it's visible, I've tried to zoom to 20%. I hope that's large enough. All right, done. Wonderful. That's lovely. That's lovely. That was fast. Anyone else? Let's get three more confirmations. Yes, another one. That's good. So you guys are feeling along. Yes, lovely. Wonderful. So I'll take it that we are together. If you are lost at any point, you can just take the video back and follow along. So if you are here, we are. You will notice that Agent Mail allows you to have webhooks and also API keys. For the purpose of this, we're going to go to webhooks. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to allow Agent Mail to speak to our n8n workflow. Okay, so I'm going to go to webhooks. Once you have webhooks, you see the app endpoint icon. So just select that. So if you've gotten to this point, you're with us. Let's go back to our n8n workflow. So if you notice, when you click on your workflow, it shows us two URLs here. You can notice your webhook URLs. It gives us the test URL and then it gives us a production URL. Now, there's a purpose for this. n8n allows you to develop your workflows and test them out before you push them to production. That's publish them. So, for the purpose of this test, we're going to use the test URL. Okay, that's generated automatically. Once you add your webhook, it will give you a webhook URL automatically. without any stress. So just click on that. I think the only thing that is editable will be the path. So if I change this path, for example, to let's take it from security inbox to phishing inbox, phishing that inbox, it would be replicated here. And the same on the production URL. So we are focused on the test URL for now. So I'm just going to click here and URL is copied. Okay. Once that is done, I'm going back to agent mail and I'm going to paste the URL I just copied there. I don't need to do anything else here on description. If you want a description for your endpoint, that's fine. You can just call this phishing inbox webhook, but I'm not going to do that for this. Next is to subscribe to events. So, given that it's an email account, it's an email inbox, there are lots of um, events. You have emails that are coming in, you have emails that you are sending out, you have emails that are being delivered, which is similar to being received, you have emails that are being sent. So, depending on what you want to collect and expose to webhook, you can select. So, for this purpose, I want it to be messages that I received. So, I'm just going to select the receive option here. So, that's done here. And then I would select create. So it's straightforward. Okay. Copy out your test URL from n8n, paste it over here, type in the name you want. Once that's done, you can now go ahead to selecting the events you want to subscribe to. So this was to subscribe to the messages that have been delivered. So messages that come into my inbox. So one good thing about webhooks is that it is instantaneous. So every single event as it happens will be replicated via that webhook. So once an email comes in, the webhook would push that email activity, that email event to anything. Okay, that's the reason why we're using webhook. Okay, so let's go back to anything. We've copied that out. We don't need to put a notification here for now. This is just a test. So I'm just going to click on listing for test events. So this means that it's currently listening for any event that comes in to that email box. So I'm going back to my console. Let's go back to my inbox. Inboxes. Let's go here. So this is going to be our agent email address. So this is the email address that will be picking up our emails for us. So if we want to test this out, we're going to use this email. So I'm going to send an email from my Gmail account to this new email we just created. Okay, so let me do that on this same tab. I'm going to go to inbox, Gmail inbox. All right, so let's compose a new inbox here. Okay, I see a question. How did you get the endpoint URL? Okay, that's easy. So before clicking on the test for events, there was an option to get my URL, and you can see it here again. Click to copy, so I can still copy my URL from here. Okay, you get a prompt that says your test URL has been copied. All right, so let's go back to Gmail. I'm going to send this Gmail to my agent mail. So let me copy it from here again. So this is a test notification. So let's call the subject test notification. So this is a test notification. Let's put, let's sample a URL. Let's think of a website that is popular. Let's use Facebook, for example. I'm going to Facebook just so that I can copy the Facebook URL, okay? I'm not doing anything there. So copying my URL. I just want my email to have a URL embedded in it. And let's end it special bytes. So let me zoom in so you can also see the emails I'm typing. All right, so all I've done is put in the my agent email address, the subject, and typed a few words in the body, and I'm going to send this out now. To confirm that this works, I'm going back to my agent mail inbox, and let's watch and see if anything comes in. Okay? Okay, while we're waiting, let me get some questions. Let's get some questions. All right, that's a very good point. So I noticed that he said point shows HTTP and n8n, but my local host is within HTTP. So that's a very good note. So because I'm running this on n8n lab, my domain is on CSN's website. I'm using CSN's website to run this lab, so my domain is on CSN. If I were using my local host, my URL will capture HTTP localhost. Okay, if I turn off my traffic using ngrok, following the steps we started on this video, then my URL will capture the URL of that ngrok has given to me. Okay, I think we might also have another session where we talk about ngrok in more detail. Just look it up; it's a very straightforward solution. Okay, so depending on how your n8n instance is hosted, that will affect your URL. It doesn't matter as long as you have it displayed up there, then it's fine. Okay. So again, I'm going to click to listen to events. So I think that's that. So I'm going to try a different email now. Compose a new email. So analyst, that's the test. Test notification. So let's send this. So we're sending it while our n8n webhook is listening. So it's awaiting an inbox, a new message to so it has come in here. So by default, yeah, that's come true. So you notice that now we have an output. This output means that our n8n instance can pick up emails from agent Gram. Okay? I'll just go through it one more time for anyone who has missed the step. Okay? So let's cancel this and go back. I'm gonna end this and start afresh. So it's listening for an event. I send an email. So you can send from a different account. It doesn't matter. As long as you send an email, you should receive it there. Okay. So one more email. Let's go again to second analyst. This is, and this time I want to say click below. Aside from that, I want to capture. So let's try a different website this time. Let's try Twitter. I just want the URL, so it doesn't matter. So copy that URL, go to my inbox, and paste it there. So sending this email to agent mail now. So I'm going to wait and see. Once that email comes into my inbox, n8n should pick it up and should move to the next step. All right, so I think we've gone through this twice now, so I'm hoping that was quite clear this time. All right, so if you are all used to HTML, so you notice that what n8n just picked up now is the header of my email, which shows everything, including the content. But n8n also allows us to go through the schema. It also allows us to see the raw JSON output as it has been received from my email. Okay, so this is the same thing you will see depending on whatever email you're using. If it's Gmail or Outlook or Slack or whatever, the only thing that will differ will be the structure of this JSON output. Okay, so by default now, every single email that comes in is going to be seen and picked up by n8n. That's the first step. Once this is done, the rest is quite easy. So I just wanted to go through this as many times as possible so it's as clear as that. Okay, so I'm going to go into schema because schema shows me the actual values that is being stored. So you can see here, it's telling me my host. But let's go into the email itself. You can see here, it's telling me what's in the body of the email, the event ID, and then you have a table or a field that speaks to the message. So the message is showing us the extracted HTML. So in HTML format, what has been sent on that email. You can see the sender, that's my email, the sender of the email address of the message, pardon me. You can also see the headers, you can see the inbox ID. You can go through, let me see if there's another, you can see the subject, this shows the subject, this shows the text. So this is what is embedded within that email. So I hope this was quite clear so we can move on further. Okay? So this is done. This is all we did. Notice we didn't put any authentication here, but if we choose to use an authentication, it only needs to be applied or replicated on the webhook interface, the server that is giving us the webhook. For agent mail, we don't necessarily need an authentication. This is your URL is the only one that is being registered there. So for that reason, I'm not going to change anything. This was a test to begin with. Okay. So let's close this out. Uh, by running this particular node, you'll notice that there's an item here, one item being sent. That item is the output from what has been ingested. So depending on how this came in, that's how it will be translated. Okay. So I'm just going to keep this as high level as possible, and we can move into the next. Okay. Next is the pass field node. So as we've seen from that schema, we're seeing lots of different codes, HTMLs, and different things that not necessarily are important. Why do we need everything? We only need certain fields there, right? So let's go into the pass fields. So this is showing us the output from the ingest node. You can rename this as you choose. So this was the code node, but you can change it to pass through depending on what exactly you want to do. Okay, so this is very high level. So I'm not going to do much talking here. On this point, I'm just going to pick up what exactly I want to review. What do I need from that email? The first thing I need, of course, is the sender. Who sent the email? Okay, so if I scroll down, I should be able to see the sender or the from, and that's it over here. So all I need to do is just um, if I want to add a step, I can just add a field here. Let's call this sender, email sender, and then it asks me for an input. So the good thing about n8n is that it's just drag and drop. No need to type any code here. I just need to drag this field name, which is the sender, and drop it there, and then it accepts it. Not only that, you can also see what it would show. So here it's saying roughly as the sender. For the body, what I imputed there was the uh, text. So this is what I imputed text. So you can see that it will bring up what is inside the email body. Okay, and then for the subject, the same thing. So that's all you're doing here. So if you have more fields you wish to capture here, you can capture this here. I'm only focusing on the body, the sender, and the subject. I don't even need the subject if I feel I don't need it, but the body is more important because that's where all the URLs, if they're imputed, will be stored. If you want to do attachment as well, there's another field that will capture attachments, but that's not our focus today. So what we're going to do now is that since we've picked up this, we're going to ingest this. So I'll execute this step. This step is now telling us from this input, what I'm going to get as our output. Our output is just three fields: the email subject, which is test2, the email body, and then the email sender. So that's all we're doing on pass fields. Okay. Again, you can see how you can apply this in other areas. If it was speaking to a different use case and you want something else picked up, you can pick that up as well. So next, we're going to go into our AI model now. So as I said, I used Gemini for this. All I have to do is go to the plus side, type in the mode, which is Gemini, and then that's it. So Gemini has different types of mode. If you want to analyze an audio, you can use that. If you want to analyze a document, you can do that. For this case, we are trying to analyze a chat. So we want to chat to the model. We want the model to um, want to give a prompt to the model. Let that prompt tell the model what to do, and then the model will now give us an output. So that's to use a message the model node. So that's just this. This is how it will come out as message to model. So what I did was I just renamed this as analyzer of emails or whatever you want to rename it to. I can put in the source as I choose to. So that's all I need to do at this point in time. And I move on. So let's go back to our notes. This is not what I need, so I'm going back to our notes. So again, since this is a template I've ingested, you don't need to go through the steps of rearranging or designing. Everything is there. All you need to do is just edit it how you see fit. Okay. So this particular workflow, I have already developed a prompt. My prompt is basically telling the model that it should assume the role of a security triage assistant. It should analyze the inbound email fields, that's the subject, the email, the sender. It should go through the sender email, that's extract the sender emails as in pass for it, extract the subject as in pass for it, and extract the body. Then what next? I want you to determine if this email is likely phishing. Okay, that's the main purpose of this. Let the model do the whole review for us so we don't have to review it ourselves. So in our case, we can use tools to do our analysis, but this is all being done by the chat model. So it's a bit very high level. We don't need to go into details here. Um, so the purpose of triaging would want the model to not to tell us how it knows it's efficient, uh, is likely phishing. So by assigning risk scores. So in security operations, you hear the word risk score. This is a term that is used to help in triaging incidents. So this helps you to tell if an incident is a high risk incident or a low risk incident. It assigns a risk score to them. Okay. Okay. So we're telling the chat model to assign a risk score depending on its analysis. If it analyzes the email and sees that, wow, this email is very serious, this is very critical, give it a high risk score. Or if it goes and see that the email is just, it looks suspicious, but it's not so suspicious, give it a medium risk score. And if this email is not malicious at all, give it a low risk score. And depending on the risk score, we can now assign the next action. Okay. So I'm also telling the chat model that if it's a high risk score, assign it by high risk. If it's a low risk, put low risk, and so on and so forth. That way, I don't need to go through every single email and know which one is high or low. I can just decide that wow, I've gotten 1,000 emails coming in, but my AI model has to classify the high risk from the medium risk. So I just need to focus on the high risk first and go into the lesser risk emails moving forward. So that's what triaging is basically all about. Okay, so let's move forward. Um, I mean, given that it's AI, it should also help us with the summary. It can do that work for us. We don't need to stress ourselves. In the case where we have to report or give reports maybe at the end of the week, and this is how many emails we've gotten, or we're trying to help customers, right? We're trying to help users that are receiving these emails. We should also give them a recommendation. Like, okay, this email is actually malicious. This is why it's malicious. So the AI model is going to do all that for us, and it's also going to recommend an action. So if it's a high risk email, give us an action, a recommendation, maybe to block it, to put it in our spam folder, or to allow it to go, depending on the risk. So this is all I'm expecting Chat GPT or Gemini to do. Okay. The important rules, of course, if you guys are used to prompt engineering, you would like to put some rules like do not hallucinate, do not do this, not do this, focus on the email, don't put a URL when there's no URL, or things like that. So I'm just putting bits of rules here. Okay. The rules I'm putting are one, urgency. So I'm telling chat or the chat model, in this case Gemini, what to look out for. I'm telling it basically that for these emails, what you should look out for is urgency. So is this asking me to perform something urgent? Look for things like account verification requests, things like login prompts, OTP requests, or payment requests. These are all the things you can see in a typical phishing email. So I'm preloading all this information to ChatGPT or to the model I'm using, Gemini in this case. So this is the part that actually requires you to do a bit of work. The model will only perform the activity based on how granular or how specific you are into what you want it to do. So if I want to be more granular, I can even add tools. Not only should you review this based on your own resources, I want you to go to Virus Total and also do this analysis. Go to this and check. Whatever you ask it to do is what it's going to do. So for this purpose of this, we just have this, okay? Finally, I'm telling that I don't want it to return a raw JSON. I want it to give me my my review in the format that I can do. So everyone's going to get this workflow. It's going to be shared to the Discord channel before the end of today, and the entire prompt is within that model. Aside from that, I'm going to show you how you can get even better models than this that perform more significant tasks. Okay, all you have to do is just change a few things in the body, and that would help it work. Okay. I feel like it has been shared already. Please check the Discord channel. You should all have access to the workflow on the Discord channel. If you do, just send the confirmation on the chat. Okay. So that's the prompt bit. I think we can skip that section, and then we're going to give the model a role. Okay. So in this case, I'm telling the model to be a user. I'm giving the role of a user. Okay, there's a question here. Can you submit a batch of emails to be analyzed, or does it have to be one email at a time? Yes, in this particular scenario, it's going to be one email at a time because it's reading via the webhook. So if you remember, I said listening for test emails, right? It's or test events. So it's listening as the emails come in. So if I send in a batch of emails at the same time and they enter the agent mail inbox at the same time, then those batch of emails will be analyzed as they come in. And if you notice, if I go back, you can see that we received one item. So if you have a batch that multiple emails are coming at the same time, although this workflow is going to be instantaneous, so as they're coming in, it's going to be analyzed. Okay, but you can also configure a wait node. A wait node is basically telling your model to chill and wait. So at that waiting point, it can decide um, you can wait and receive lots of items before it performs analysis. But this is security. Incident response, you need instantaneous response. You don't need to wait for a batch of emails to come before you analyze them. It does it as it happens. All right. So this is just the wait node, as I said. So you can configure how long you want to wait for, things like that. And for those that asked, you can see we have Gmail, Telegram, Chat, Slack, Teams, Google Chat, Microsoft Outlook, depending on the sort of email accounts you want to use. Okay, so let's go back to this. Again, the purpose of this training is just to show you what you can do from anything. I believe you all as very well creative enough to surprise me and do something more impressive than this simple four-node workflow. All right, so I expect you guys to try different nodes, try it and see what's going to happen. For every node you want to use, you should have a you can always look online on how to leverage that node and what you can get from each node. Okay, so I think the one last thing I've not showed you guys is choosing the model. Okay, when you put in a message node, depending on the chat model, if it's Gemini, Grok, Claude, or whatever, you have to authenticate it. Authenticating it means it has to have a credential that has an account. So in this case, I would want Grok to use my, oh, sorry, I would want Gemini to use my credential to perform this activity, right? So I'm going to go and set up a credential. So what I'm doing is going to set up credential. Okay, click on set up credential. You'll see it will give you a host. It will ask for an API key, and that's what you need, the API key. So how do we get the Gemini API key? Just go online and type Gemini API key. So if it's for chat, the same thing, type online chat API key. The documentation, if it's Grok, the same thing. They will detail how to use the API key. For this session, we're going to leverage on Gemini, so we'll just follow through and see what API key looks like, okay? So for Gemini API keys, all Google API, you can get them through Google AI Studio for the AIs. Then, depending on the platform you want, if it's Google Sheets or Google Docs, you have Google Docs APIs, just depending on what you want. Okay. So let's go to get started. All right. So I'm going to acknowledge all this, acknowledge, and great. So we are already at the page for API keys. So I want to create a new API key, obviously. So create API key. I'm going to zoom in now in case you guys cannot see my screen. I just went to create API key. It's asking us for a name. So let's choose a name. Let's call this. mm, Let's give it something simple. Let's call it anything key. Okay. Then if you have a project, you can import your project, but that's irrelevant to what we're doing right now. So I'm just going to create a key. Okay, let's take some questions as we proceed. So let me get some questions. Do we have to? Let's see what that text in there clearly. Right? Do we have to send the email to agent mail? or it looks through and listens for inbound noise management. No. For this particular workflow, we actually set up our emails on agent mode. So it's looking out for emails on agent mode. Okay. If an organization uses Outlook as an email provider and integrates internet, the phishing email charges work automatically and analyzes images across all employees' accounts. So for organizations that set up an email provider, you are given an interface as an administrator. So an administrator, you have to check if that email provider allows you to leverage webhooks. If it does, then yes, all you need to do is just point the webhook to your n8n instance, and as email in, it will be pointed to yours. But if you notice on our agent mail, we pointed it to a particular inbox, right, which was a phishing inbox. So if you have multiple inboxes speaking to groups, because in some organizations you might group your employees into groups. So depending on the groups, if you select everything, you select certain groups, and that's how it's going to communicate. Okay. Another question? All right, I can see that the template has also been put on the chat, so you can also get that from there just to see what the flow looks like. So you can import that to your n8n instance, even if you're on local, just to see what I'm viewing and to see each node as I'm walking through them. Okay? I need to repeat it live. Sure, please, you're free to do that as you see fit. If you have some problems, just put them on the chat. If I can respond to them as you proceed, I will. If not, we can do this after, or you can also send the messages on Discord and I'll respond. All right, so let's continue. Let's continue. We have just a little time left. All right, so if you can see, Google AI has given me my API key. Okay, all I need to do now is just copy that API key and go back to my n8n workflow and paste in that API key. So what it's going to do that it's going to it's going to test the connection. Once you can see that it's been tested successfully, it means that you can communicate with my Google Gemini account. So we should have this depending on the model. If it's chat, whatever, you should be able to get that. So let's close this. So now you can see that credential has been populated with Google Gemini API account, right? So that means that it's working fine. So next is going to get a resource. We're going to use text. We just want to send the message to the model. So text is our resource. And the operation is message the model. So if you made a mistake, you can change that later on. Next is to choose the model. So depending on your account that has been put in that credential, you can check under the model from your list or by ID. So we're going to use the model from the list. Since we can communicate with our Gemini model, it's going to show us all the models that are available to us. You can see all Gemini models. However, for our free accounts, this is a new email I just created. So we have only what a free account has, and that's the Gemini 2.5 Flash. Okay, that's what I'm selecting. So let's test it out, right? So let's do cute step. It's been denied access. Let's try it again. Let me go change that credentials. It says that credential doesn't want to go through. So I'm going to click on this again. Let's try. Oh, I'm so sorry. I have not saved this. So let's go back to AI Studio and refresh. All right. So going back again, I used the Gemini 2.5 Flash model. So you have other models here. You have 2.5 Pro and so many others. So let's try to execute again and see. So it seems I executed my name. So if you use a model that you don't have access to, like Gemini Pro, you have an error like this. You've exceeded your current code for more details. So this is the reason why I tried to use 2.5 Flash. Let's use 2.5 Flash and try again. Seems to get another error. Let's see. Permission denied, probably have denied access. So let's go back to API key since we don't have access using this. So let's go to API keys. I'm supposed to set up a test email. So let's go to Don't go back for now. I'm going to sort of go back here again. Oh, so I have a question. Please let me hear your questions quickly. Okay. So if I got you right, the use of agent mail is just for this demonstration. Does that mean in reality you can use in Yahoo? Yes, you can use Yahoo Mail, you can use any other domain you choose. Okay. So this demonstration is the reason why we use agent mail, and you can also use agent mail if you choose to. Okay. So what I've done is I'm going to copy my API key again since it's refreshed. And let's go to change that credential. Since I didn't copy that for the first time. So let's save and see. All right, connection successfully. Let's try it again. Skip stop. All right, great. So Gemini has accepted, or n8n has accepted our API key. So what do we have now as a result? You can see it has analyzed the result for us and it has given us in a text format, in a JSON format. So that takes us to the last node now. The AI model has analyzed our email for us, but we need to be able to display that email, that analysis in a format that we can understand. So let's go to the last node now, which is called display results. So the input, of course, is the analysis result from Gemini. And if you can go through the text itself, you can go through and see that it's capturing the subject, the URLs. So it also picked up the URLs. If you have multiple URLs, it's going to pick that up as well, and so on. And then let's go to the parameters. So for this particular parameter, what we do is that we've created a JavaScript code that will take the output from ChatGPT or whatever model you're using, in this case Gemini. It's going to take that output and it's going to clean it up for us. So this is very important in security operations. Normally, your tools have different ways they ingest data. Okay, I won't throw this question out to security analysts there. Tools have different ways they ingest data. How do you ensure that all data coming in to a central solution, let's say a SIEM, a SIEM is a tool that ingests data from different sources, okay? So how do you ensure that all the data that's been, or the alerts, the incidents that have been picked up from all the solutions are ingested in a format that can be understood all together, okay? This is what is called parsing the data. So we're trying to parse the data in a format that is relatable all through, okay? I have one more question here as a follow-up to your response. Can we link more email inboxes to this workflow? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So all you have to do, the same way I copied out my test URL from agent mail from n8n and I pasted it to agent mail's webhook. I can do that for Gmail. I can do that for any other email provider that I have. I just need to go to the webhook function there, their service there for webhooks, and I paste in that URL, and then it allow me to collect different inbox. Then again, you remember on Agent Mail, I also have to subscribe to a particular type of event. So you also have to do that in whatever other source you want. And then again, finally, you can also add another node here. So you can ingest emails from different nodes. Okay, you can have another node here. Let's call it the Gmail node. So you can have another Gmail that gets a message. The same way we did the last one is going to go to credential, but you have to set up a credential. You have an OAuth redirect token in this case, but it works the same way. Just go to Gmail APIs, get that OAuth token, and then you can connect this node to your pass field. So that will serve as two entry points. Okay. Once that's set up, you can add in as many as you want. So depending on that use case, as I said. So for this use case again, we're just using one. And if you don't want to go to the hassle of setting this up manually, there's always more templates online for you to go through. As I said, this is the simplest as I could think of to perform this analysis. All right. So yeah, let's go back to our display results. This code again is available on the templates. All you need to do is copy it if you want to use it in a different workflow. So what we're doing here is that we're carrying the ChatGPT's input or output here, and then we're translating them. Oh, it seems I have to execute each node again. So let's try it again with this node. And here we go. So this is the output gotten from chat from Gemini. Okay, and you can see it's straightforward now. It has told us the email subject. It has told us if it's suspicious. So it feels like it is suspicious. So it's saying true. And as given us a summary, the email is likely a generic with a direct call to action to click a link. So it's telling us that this is a likely phishing email because it's asking us to click a link. So you can see we still have some tweaks to do when it comes to the model. Yeah, depending on how much we have told the prompt to perform, how much analysis we told it to do, then it will do that analysis. Okay. The reason behind why it feels is suspicious is going to be listed out for us. The generic sender email domain is public. It's not a private email. It's not within our domain. It's not within our organization. Okay. If we have an organization like someone raised a question for using Outlook, for example, Outlook expects that every single email that you're receiving or sending is going to be from Outlook. It's your company's domain. However, I see you receive a domain that is from Gmail, so it's seen it as external. So that's the reason why. Number two, extremely generic and suspicious email body. You just saw an email that just says click below. So that's why it's flagging it as suspicious. Next thing is a direct call to click a link. So the fact that the link is directly embedded in that email is also suspicious. I know some email providers that prevent you from viewing an email if there's a link in that email. It asks you to reach out to your administrator to confirm first before you proceed. So this is all the reasons why this chat model is claiming our email is suspicious. I'm just going to stop here and take one or two more questions, and then we can just try one more thing, which is to import another model that is quite more comprehensive and not so basic like this. So just one or three questions or two questions at most, then we can end it here. Okay, so going to the chat now. If you have questions on any part of this workflow, this is 4 steps, so it's as straightforward as possible. We ingest, we parse the fields, we analyze, and then we display the results. That's it. Okay. And of course, the quality of your output also depends on the quality of the model you are using. This is an AI class, so you're expected to have at least some level of access to a very good AI model. In our particular scenario, we're using Gemini again for this test scenario. Instead of setting up a paid account, and I don't want to personally expose my API key on this class since it's recorded live, but on your own, your labs, on your setups, you can test this out. I mean, you're doing it on a local host, you can test this out within your monitored environment. Okay. All right. So again, if it has been a bit confusing, just go over the training again. It's very straightforward. I hope. Um, the last step within this is to publish. Publishing means this is being tested now, so you are seeing each step one after the, as it goes. And to confirm if a step has failed or not failed, you remember the execution plane. So this shows us everything that has gone in our workflow. So from the start, all the errors. This is basically your debugging view. It shows you at what point the model, the workflow fails to accomplish a task. If you remember at first when we tried to run that model, it failed because Gemini could not recognize my account. So this is just showing you what happened at the point at which it stopped. So this helps us when we want to debug, try to find out issues, try to resolve them. It allows you to go back to a state at any point in time that that workflow was executed. Okay. So I think that takes us through the executions and editor and then publishing. Publishing is the last part. This is when you are done with test and you now want to do live. So we're not going to go through that on this call. It's just a switch of a button. You turn it to publish and it goes live, meaning that you don't need to be seeing everything here. It's just going to be automated. You don't need to be here at all times. The workflow is working fine. The only thing you need to change here is to go to your ingest mail and copy out your production URL and paste that. So that's just it. So um, before we go, I just want to do one more thing if our admin will allow us. I'm going to select a different workflow now, something that is a bit more detailed, just to show you what you can develop with anything. So this is a different type of workflow. This one you're leveraging on AI a bit less and you're leveraging on other solutions. Okay. In this case, I am using a webhook the same way. I'm passing my fields. I'm extracting two different things here. I'm extracting a sender domain and I'm extracting the URLs. Okay. If you open this, you'll see I'm extracting two nodes, sender and URL. And then what am I doing this? I have my workflow broken down into two. The first one speaks to virus total. Virus total to analyze my URL, confirm if the email even has a URL, if it's malicious or not. Virus Total is a platform that does this analysis. We also have tools like IPDB or some sandbox environment. So depending on different tools, you can incorporate them. Okay, this one analyzes the email for us, the URL for us, develops a report for us, and saves that. It also performs analysis of the domain, checks the domain, who is sending the email. Is it an external person? Is it an internal person? It analyzes the output, it brings it up before it now sends it to the model. So again, you can see in this case, I have a lot of activities being done before the model gets it. So the model doesn't have to do too much work. In some cases, the model does all the work. So depending on how well or how much you want the model to do, your design is your choice. You can do lots of things. So I would like to see you guys perform more of this and just surprise us, okay? Um, so here again, I still have a parser that goes through a switch. The switch goes and tells me if the email is a high priority, medium priority, or low priority, depending on severity. I think I have an overlay here. Let me take it. So you can see a switch. A switch is a node that just divides depending on your output. So if it analyzes and says it's high, it goes medium. So depending on how granular you want your workflow to be, you can implement that. So this is just one workflow I was able to import. Again, you can get more workflows from the editing platform. Just go to templates and search for whatever kind of use case you're looking for, and you should be able to see that. Okay, I think I'm going to stop here before I overload you guys with too much. I do hope this was quite informative, and I'll take it back to Okon now. So, Okon, over to you.
All right. Thank you so much. This was quite an interesting section. It's very nice to see how AI has come a long way in automating a lot of the security operations. Security operations is one field that there have been a lot of advancements. There have been a lot of new technologies showing up and even enterprise tools out there in the market in this particular piece. So this is over to you guys now to go in wherever you are, try to see how you can leverage this particular tool to automate. And just to clear out some confusion. n8n is just one tool out of many others, right? There are many other solutions out there in the market. I believe in this bootcamp, we're also going to cover Copilot agents at some point. But there are a lot of many other beautiful tools out there that you can do a whole lot, right? Okay, all right. I see some persons commenting about the weekly tax already. So yes, the tax for this week is out. All you simply need to do is simple. You just need to import the existing workflow, which has been shared on Discord. We'll also try to put that link as well to alongside with the tax. So import the existing workflow and extend it, right? Extend that workflow to be able to log the incidents or whatever output, to log that into a Google Sheet. If you want to maybe log it as a Jira ticket or log it as anything else fancy, feel free. But the idea is extend that workflow, take it off from there. Even if you want to go ahead to connect it to Virus Total, a couple minutes ago, I saw a couple of persons sending me very interesting workflows. So please go ahead to do that. If you want to connect with our our honorable instructor on call, you can easily reach out to him on LinkedIn. You can search for Emmanuel Luce, or if you go to CSN's LinkedIn most recent posts, you would also see his profile there. You can as well just click on his profile and as well reach out to him to connect for any further details. All right, so in our next section, we're actually going to be taking a switch. It's interesting, right? So we're going to be taking a switch. We're going to be taking a break from security operations. And our next two sections, we're going to be breaking systems. We're going to be breaking things. So we're going to introduce our pen testers, our red teamers, our ethical hackers, right? So they'll be using AI to do asset discovery. They'll be using AI to exploit web applications, and you would see how far we've come in the industry and leverage this in your day-to-day workflows. So once again, let's use this last opportunity to just say thank you to our instructor. Thank you, Emmanuel. Please drop your comments as much as you can. Let's give a round of applause to our instructor for this beautiful section. This section, of course, is available for us to definitely go ahead to rewatch. It's not easy to be able to have all these different talents come on call to share this knowledge. So really appreciate you, Sir Emmanuel, and reach out to CSN if you need to connect to him. For now, I would say have a beautiful weekend and see you next time. Thank you.